Bikers saw a black waitress limping. What they did next shocked everyone. It was a typical Saturday afternoon when a group of bikers, their leather jackets gleaming under the midday sun, rolled into the small diner on the corner of Main Street. The sound of their roaring engines reverberated off the walls, sending a wave of excitement through the local town. The diner was nothing fancy, a humble spot where the regulars gathered for their weekend meals. The owners, an elderly couple, ran the place with a level of care that made their customers feel like family. The food wasn't anything extraordinary, but the atmosphere was warm, inviting, and comforting. As the bikers dismounted and made their way inside, the usual banter filled the air. They were used to getting attention, their motorbikes loud and intimidating, but their reputation among the locals wasn't that of troublemakers. In fact, they had been coming to this diner for years, always greeted by the friendly faces of the waitstaff. They were loud, brash, and rough around the edges, but there was something about the warmth of the diner that kept bringing them back. This time, however, as they walked in, something seemed different. The waitress behind the counter, a young woman named Tanya, was limping slightly as she moved between the tables. Her steps were careful, deliberate, and her face, though smiling, carried a weariness that hadn't been there the last time they visited. Tanya had been working at the diner for several months now, and her friendly smile and quick service had made her a favorite among the bikers. They were used to her energetic personality, her laughter echoing across the room as she refilled coffee cups and delivered plates of pancakes and bacon with a bounce in her step. But today, it was different. She moved slower, her left leg dragging just a bit behind her, and the pain was evident on her face whenever she thought no one was looking. As the bikers sat down at their usual booth, they exchanged curious glances, unsure if they were imagining it. But there was no denying it, Tanya wasn't the same. Her limp was unmistakable. The biggest of the bikers, Jake, who usually had his head buried in his menu or making jokes about the weather, couldn't help but notice. He leaned over to one of his friends and muttered, "Something's wrong with Tanya. Did you see her limp?" His friend, Mike, nodded. "Yeah, she's been like that for a while now, I think." Jake frowned. "I'm going to ask her about it." As Tanya approached their table, balancing a tray of drinks, she tried to hide the discomfort in her face with a forced smile. "What can I get you guys today?" she asked, her voice light but carrying an undertone of exhaustion. Jake, his brow furrowing, glanced up at her with concern. "Tanya, you okay? You're limping. What happened?" Tanya froze for a moment, caught off guard by his directness. She quickly tried to brush it off, her smile faltering only slightly. "Oh, it's nothing. Just a little accident from a while back, that's all. I'll be fine." But the bikers weren't convinced. They had seen enough of Tanya to know when something was off. She was tough, too tough to let something like an injury slow her down. So, they pressed her further. "Come on, Tanya," Jake said softly, his voice gentler now. "We're friends here. You can tell us what happened." For a moment, Tanya hesitated, her eyes darting down to the floor as if weighing whether to reveal what she had been keeping hidden. Then, with a deep sigh, she set the tray down on the table, leaned in slightly, and whispered, "I got into a car accident a few months ago. A hit and run. The guy didn't even stop to see if I was okay. He just drove off." The bikers fell silent. They weren't expecting that. Tanya's usual upbeat demeanor had always made her seem like someone who could handle anything life threw her way, but this was different. She had been dealing with the pain of the accident alone for months, unable to afford proper medical treatment, and still trying to keep up with her work at the diner. "I didn't want to make a big deal out of it," Tanya continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's been tough. The pain comes and goes, and some days it's hard to even walk." The group of bikers exchanged glances, their expressions turning from concern to something deeper, something that could only be described as a sense of protectiveness. They couldn't believe she had been going through this on her own, without asking for help. But what really hit them was the realization that despite everything she had been through, Tanya still showed up to work every day, still greeted everyone with a smile, still gave the same energy to every customer who walked in. Jake was the first to speak, his voice low but firm. "That's it, Tanya. We're not letting you go through this alone. We're going to help." Tanya shook her head, a look of surprise crossing her face. "You don't have to." "No," Mike cut in, his voice resolute. "We insist. You've always been there for us. Now it's our turn." The group of bikers didn't waste any time. Jake, with his booming voice, got the attention of the diner's owner, an elderly man named Mr. Thompson, who had seen more than his fair share of hard times. Jake explained the situation, and after a brief discussion, it was decided that Tanya would take some time off to recover. They pooled their resources and promised to cover her medical bills, ensuring she had the support she needed to heal properly. As Tanya stood there, overwhelmed by the unexpected generosity, tears welled up in her eyes. She had never imagined that a group of tough, motorcycle-riding men would go so far out of their way to help her. In that moment, she realized that sometimes, people don't need to be asked for help. They just offer it when they see someone in need. The bikers stayed at the diner for the rest of the afternoon, eating, talking, and laughing as if nothing had changed. But for Tanya, everything had changed. The weight of her pain had lessened, not just physically but emotionally as well. For the first time in months, she felt like she wasn't alone in her struggle. As the bikers prepared to leave, Jake stood up and gave Tanya a reassuring smile. "We've got your back, Tanya. Don't forget that." With that, they left the diner, their engines roaring to life once more, but this time, the sound felt different. It wasn't just the sound of bikes revving. It was the sound of a community coming together, of strangers becoming family, and of kindness in the most unexpected of places. And for Tanya, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she no longer had to face her battles alone.